Hey, welcome back. It's your boy Will J. Let's get into some deck brewing shenanigans. Dominaria United is just around the corner. But before we get into that, today I'm gonna be covering a deck from Bob, who submitted to me a deck list that I then helped refine to fit within a budget but still have it perform around the desired power level. And so the commander we'll be covering today is Raggadragga, Goreguts Boss. He's a 4-mana value 4 human boar that gives each creature we control with a mana ability +2/+2. So already he acts like an anthem for mana dorks. Then whenever a creature we control with a mana ability attacks, we get to untap it, meaning we can be aggressive first, but still use the mana ability later. Lastly, whenever we cast a spell, if we spend at least 7 mana on it, we get to untap any target creature, and that creature then gains +7/+7 and trample until end of turn. So we get a huge attack bonus if we play giant spells. So we want to play mana dorks, ramp out the big mana spells, and profit. It promotes a carefree playstyle, and so the deck we're going to be showcasing today is called Hakuna Matata, fitting for a deck helmed by a Pumba-like commander. Now before we get into it, if you like the work that we do, I hope you could leave me a like and subscribe, and hit that bell too so you know when the new brews are around. We'll go over our usual themes of ramp, removal, and draw, but then we'll also go over our other themes of dorks, big beats, resilience, and something we like to call UBP or utilities, bombs, and pets. Gruul ramps and it ramps hard. I won't be covering any of the mana dorks because there's a section just for them later on, but I still find Sol Ring and Cygnus are just always useful to have, even in colors that can land ramp. They come in untapped and so they can be used immediately. Of course, land ramp is always great, and Rampant Growth and Kodama's Reach are terrific staples, while Ranger's Path is a 4-drop that searches out 2 forests in a play, meaning non-basics with forest subtypes are fair game. A card that I think works well on 2 levels is Beanstalk Giant, which can ramp us as a 3-drop, but can also come into play later and trigger Raggadragga's 7-drop ability. Removal is going to be an unheralded part of our game plan. People will see the big attacks and think that's what's winning the game, but fighting for board control helps complete the circle of life. Nature's Claim and Return to Nature are versatile removal spells that take out pesky artifacts and enchantments, while Blasphemous Act is just a good board wipe spell and that belongs in almost all decks that can run it. Ram Through, Thrash, and Nature's Way are one-sided fight spells which all take advantage of having big creatures on the board, while Halana Kessig Ranger is a creature that lets us do the same effect whenever a creature enters the battlefield under our control. However, the power of our deck is unlocked when we spend at least 7 mana, and the easiest way to get there is through X spells. Starstorm and Comet Storm are particularly good because they're instants, meaning they can be played during combat. So technically, our creatures can attack, get untapped, use their mana abilities, help us dump at least 7 mana into paying for these, trigger Pumba's +7/+7, all before these X wipes finally resolve. Rolling Thunder is another X spell, albeit it's a sorcery, but it has the versatility of letting us choose which creatures get wiped. Obviously, if there's an early threat, then we don't need to wait for the 7 mana, just play these X spells early as a slightly inefficient removal spell. Another interesting X spell is Fanning the Flames, which costs 2, can be bought back for 3, and so technically if you ping something for 2 damage and buy it back, it's one way to remove a utility creature while also triggering Raggadragga's +7/+7 ability. Some permanent-based removal are Tyrant's Familiar, which is a 7-mana value dragon, and with Raggadragga out becomes a 7/7 with flying and haste, which shoots something for 7 damage. And Ulamog Crusher, an 8-mana value 8/8 B-Team Eldrazi. I say B-Team because you don't really see it often. I mean, it's not Ulamog, Emrakul, Kozilek, but it does have Annihilator too, with a big body, which can pose problems against certain decks. Green is one of the best colors for draw, and yeah, we're running red too, but man, green though. Lifecrafter's Bestiary and Beast Whisperer reward us for playing creatures. Elemental Bond rewards us when a creature with power 3 or greater enters the battlefield under our control, and with Pumba out, it's essentially almost every mana dork will play. And Garruk Surprising is a toned-down version of this in that it requires power 4 or greater. Mouth is fine, but Feed is what we really want to cast, drawing us a card for each creature we control with power 3 or greater, which again will be almost every mana dork with Raggadragga out. And Drum Hunter is almost like a Phyrexian Arena or Monarch of sorts, drawing us a card once per turn if we have a creature with power 5 or greater. Snake Umbra can be sneaky good, and I'll highlight the card that goes bonkers with this later on, but even without that sneaky synergy, just drawing us a card for staying aggressive is a nice effect. And finally, some big mana value cards we can play are Genesis Hydra, which we can dump mana into to trigger Pumbaa, while also giving us card selection and draw, and Sandstone Oracle, which honestly may as well have been white with its catch-up mechanic for card draw. Mana Dorks are the heart of this deck, and we're gonna be playing them until the sun comes up over the horizon. Elvish Mystic, Fyndhorn Elves, and Llanowar Elves are all 1-drops that are copies of each other, and Birds of Paradise is a little pricey because it's a staple, but it is an evasive attacker for when Pumbaa is out. For 2-drops, we're hoping to get something a bit more extra than a 1/1 mana dork. Tangled Florahedron is a creature that has the versatility of being played as a land. Ornithopter of Paradise has flying, Paradise Druid has hexproof, and Jurta Druid pings for 1. Remember Snake Umbra from earlier? Play that aura on this Druid and it'll draw you 3 cards when you tap it for mana. There are 2-drops though that punch above their weight, and Incubation Druid and Rada Ertakeld can both produce at a rate of more than 1 mana. Speaking of more than 1 mana, the 3-drops we're playing are our premium mana dorks. Viridian Joiner makes mana equal to its power. Leafkin Avenger makes mana for each creature with power 4 or greater. Marwyn the Nurturer makes mana equal to her power, and she pumps herself incidentally when we play our other elves. And finally, well, fine, Llanowar Visionary doesn't produce a lot of mana, but the cantrip effect is decent and appreciated when you are starting to storm off and need to keep the momentum rolling. And since we played Halana, we're also playing Alena Kessig Trapper. She's a 5-drop, which is on the high side, but she can burst out mana depending on the other creatures we play this turn. Pumbaa's Anthem is much appreciated, but big beater effects are gonna help us stampede through our opponents. Mana Gorger Hydra is a classic early play that is likely to get out of control really quickly, and Stump Squall Hydra is a mana dump creature that can power up Pumbaa for a Voltron-like charge. Endrace Forerunners and Decimator of the Provinces are budget creator hoofs, but they can still end the game. And Unnatural Growth is probably one of my favorite finishers for green, doubling our power and toughness at each combat step. Finally, Vines to the Vastwood is a neat little combat trick that no one is gonna expect. I've always found playing a card like Giant Growth is such a flex, because I mean, who plays G-Growth? And this is just like G-Growth with the upside of hexproof. While aggression is our main game plan, it always pays to be prepared. Once in Future is a card with a sick name, sick art, and pretty good effect too. For 4 mana, we can likely return any 2 cards from our yard to our hand. Wildest Dreams has a similar effect with the upside of triggering Pumbaa's +7/+7 if X is 3. Skullwinder and Eternal Witness also get us cards of our choice back, with Skullwinder letting us politic for a small favor, or maybe a big one, I don't know. Sarith the Viper's Fang is a good way to keep our creatures protected because Pumbaa gives our dorks pseudo-vigilance. And since our dorks also have tap ability effects, we essentially have the versatility to choose between hexproof or death touch depending on the situation. Those fight spells can now become instant kill spells. For UBP, we run a classic game-ending bomb that triggers Pumbaa in Insurrection. We probably haven't seen this card in a hot minute, but it's still really effective. Multani's Harmony is a way of turning one of our other creatures, it could even be Raggadragga, into a mana dork, and Leyline of Abundance helps in speeding up the mana production from those dorks. From Beyond is a token producer, and since Eldrazi Scions have mana abilities, they also enjoy the +2/+2 boost. Ranger class is a versatile card that lets us put counters on creatures, as well as gives us Creature Future Sight, letting us play creatures off the top of our library, while Rhythm of Wild also puts counters on our creatures, or gives them haste, as well as letting us fight through potential counter spells. Finally, Domri, Anarch of Bolas, covers a lot of bases. He ramps, he fights through counters, he's an Anthem, and he's removal. Having Domri out there just makes the game run so much better, and he's just peak utility. Time to see where this deck falls in our playability matrix. If you want a breakdown of this scale, there should be a link to the video at the top right of your screen, which explains our take on power levels, particularly as it relates to casual gaming. For offense, Hakuna Matata ramps consistently, it can snowball quickly if left unchecked, and it can hit those 7 mana power spikes with some regularity. However, its main win con is honest combat damage, which means it needs to whittle down life totals first to close the game. However, it starts its work early, and something unique about it is that it doesn't even need to make a trade-off between ramping or staying aggressive, because thanks to Raggadragga's untap clause, it can do both in the same turn. Thus, I would grade this deck's offense with a B. For defense, Hakuna Matata has a pretty good number of removal or interactive cards, but it is reliant on inefficient X spells or pseudo-fight spells to take care of creatures, which means it'll face trouble against decks with huge creatures or indestructible ones and things like this. Now while there is some level of coverage, hitting artifacts and enchantments, those cards are specific to those types only. Thus, I'd grade this deck's defense as a C. Overall, Hakuna Matata is a good deck to run in a mid-power casual setting. If you have your own staples lying around that you want to mix and match in this build, then feel free to do so, and here's the shell that you can refer to help guide you. 7 ramp spells, 12 removal, 9 draw, 15 dork, 6 big beats, 5 resilience, 7 UVP, and 38 lands. And that's it for this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you, Bob, for letting me feature your deck. It was really fun looking it over and making suggestions while keeping in mind your budget. And if you guys want your deck featured, you can always email me over at fruitchannel@gmail.com or leave a comment down below. And if you haven't yet, a like and subscribe would be much appreciated, and I want to thank you in advance for helping me keep this channel going. You can follow me in Moxfield as well. I'm also called Friends with Ties over there, and with that, stay inspired, friends, and I'll see you next time.